Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of HeadCoachU. I am Bryan Fischer, joined as always by former BYU and Virginia and Mountain West, because that's important coming up. Head coach Bronco Mendenhall. And Bronco, we've had on a ton of college coaches. We had NFL coaches. We had college basketball coaches, which starts this week. Thrilled to have on our first commissioner, Gloria Nevarez, the commissioner of the Mountain West. Gloria, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I know, coaches, they're always busy. It seems like they're always doing something. I would imagine the life of the commissioner is even busier than I think anybody can imagine. Can you peel back the curtain a little bit in terms of like what goes on? I don't know if there's a typical day that you might have, but like what is a week for you in terms of your work and just dealing with everything that seems to be on your plate?
Well, if you think of the conference responsibility, it starts with, media rights, our television broadcasts, championships, officiating, and generally making sure people play by the rules and play nice together. So especially this time of year, it's a lot of travel. I'm trying to get out to all the campuses, but it's also, we have a command center for game operation issues and everything else. We have another one for replay. And so that one's monitoring and feeding, all the issues from the events. But certainly just kind of the daily operations of running the league, and then, kind of this membership conference expansion, one eye always kind of looking out for what's next out there.
As you consider so there's obviously a zillion things going on in your life just with what you described. And then, as you mentioned, the 1I2 expansion, I'm wondering how much from the Mountain West Conference and where you sit are you trying to be proactive in position versus just kind of watching the tea leaves, right? It's kind of sort out, and how much of your time is occupied maybe by what the future might look like?
Well, when I first took this job in January, it was hot on the radar. And so it was part of the interview. San Diego State was really very transparent and public about their desire to align with the Power 5 conference. So from the get-go, we started a membership subcommittee working group, 3 presidents, 3 ADs, to constantly meet, kind of scrub the environment, compare notes, and be proactive, stay ahead of it. As the Pac-12, demise happened over time, and then felt like rather quickly, that was handled directly by our board of directors. But now that that's settled down a little bit, we've reconvened our membership subcommittee, and we're constant. Our questions now are we at the right size? Previously, I felt like if we lost one school, that would have put us at 11 football, 10 non-football. And I felt that was a good sized league. But now I wonder if we're on the small side, given what's happening in the environment. So we are constantly evaluating, all right, what number should we be at? How would that impact schedulings and getting teams in the postseason? And then if expansion's in the cards, who should we be looking at?
But so kind of going back, as you consider, it seems like another alignment or expansion is coming. So knowing that you kind of had one eye on it before and then have a subcommittee and working group, is that still happening? And then how do you see, because one of the first things you mentioned was media rights, and is that tied to the decision, as I would guess it would be?
Yeah, as you know, media rights pretty much drove this most recent round of conference realignment. There's still the open question of Washington State and Oregon State and what they're going to do. And certainly we feel they fit with us. We'd love to have them. But also they've got a lot of figuring out to do. And, you've read they've got court dates and all kinds of things happening over there. So right now we're good. We're looking forward to finishing up this season and hopefully being in the CFP playoff. But our media rights expire in 26. So we'll go to market in 25. So, that's for us right now looking like a good opportunity because, the market been a little soft. A lot of the media money has been spent in this most recent round. Hopefully, let the market recover a bit, and very much looking forward to, really elevating our brand and, really just committing to amplifying who we are as a Mountain West and then going to market in a couple of years.
It seems like the job that you have is expansive, is broad, is deep, and the preparation. I'm fascinated to know, how did you prepare to be a commissioner? Because it seems like the knowledge base you have to have in a wide variety of topics is maybe one of the strengths, just in listening to you already hit about 12 different points in different areas. And so what kind of, if you were to advise maybe the next Mountain West Conference commissioner 20 years down the road when you retire or move on or et cetera, like what preparation would be the ideal preparation for a conference commissioner, either education or work experience? What would be helpful?
Well, I think, some familiarity with the college athletic space, having worked on campus, I feel personally is really important because campus is a different beast. It's not like private sector, right? I mean, it's the higher education, it's the academy. It's got a lot going on. It's wonderful in that sense, but it's not the same as many other industries. Also, I think, there's only 32 Division I conferences, right? And there's only 10 that compete at this FBS level that has all these kind of nuances to it. And so some experience with what it means to really be at an FBS institution and all that entails. And, what's really, really helped me through this expansion is just, I've been in this business 25 years. Oh, that hurts. And just the people you get to know. I mean, Coach, right? It's just, it's a small community, but when, stuff starts to boil, being able to call good friends, colleagues I trust, they're not violating any conflicts, but just, letting me know when and where to look. It's been really, really important.
Yeah. The colleagues that you can trust, I'd like to pause on that for a second. Number one, they're hard to find, and it takes a lot of work to cultivate and establish those. But wow, having the right mentor or person that you can call at the right moment with the right advice, wow, does it allow your head to kind of not be so distorted and fragmented, and sometimes just a voice of reason at the right time really helps. And I don't know, maybe you could expand on that, and what does that circle look like for you? Maybe do you have one in each kind of sub-discipline of your job, or like how have you gone about that?
Well, certainly, the folks that have given me opportunities, the first one who pops to mind is Joe Castiglione at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, he hired me out of the West Coast Conference. Who? What? And made, senior associate, athletic director, gave me a lot of responsibility that I was ready for, but I don't know how many folks would have taken a chance from so I had FBS experience on my resume, but I just happened to be coming from the West Coast Conference, which was, Division I, no football. And that certainly, and just like you were saying, there are days when I can call him, he'll always call me back. And when I'm just getting hounded with all kinds of perspective and advice, and even though I know kind of what my gut's saying, just listening to him say, yeah, I think you're thinking about it the right way. Listen to your gut. Just that kind of good housekeeping seal of approval, like, yeah, you're not crazy. You haven't gotten too far down the branch. That sounds right. It's just so helpful, comforting. I think, but to your point, we work as commissioners, we work for our board of directors, our president. So you got to constantly have that connection and relationship and communication, but we serve our membership, and that's our ADs, and really being connected to them both. I mean, during the height of, the realignment expansion, I was on the phone with all of ADs and presidents at least once or twice a week.
Yeah. If you were to describe, maybe the interaction between those two groups, because I would imagine there's unique challenges for both. So here's the board of directors and the presidents, which are highly accomplished and have their own issues with each of their institutions. And so you have that whole thing as you're talking with them. And then you switch gears, I'm sure, to the athletic directors, which also have their own initiatives and agendas and unique and distinct institutions. And I'd love to hear just kind of maybe the toggling back and forth between the president group and the athletic director group.
Yeah, and fortunately, we have such a great group in both rooms, and I've extended to our coaches groups. They're amazing.
Yeah.
They're a very impressive group of people. So our presidents are operating, way up here, 100,000 feet, and certainly very interested and committed to athletics. But our athletic directors and our other stakeholders, they're our practitioners, they're our experts. So it's really a balance between getting our ADs prepped enough, get them to a consensus on an issue so that they can prep their presidents, and that the presidents that you're delivering information, remind, they're not in this every day. So every time I start an issue, I start with a little bit, remember last time, and then here's context and history. here is all the pros and cons, and here's where I, as your, neutral commissioner, think we're going, but here's where our coaches and our ADs and everybody else, netted out on the issue and think we're going, because you never want to pull your president so far into the details that you've lost them, but you really need to keep them engaged and educated to make informed decisions. So honestly, people are surprised to find out how much little legitimate authority commissioners have. Very rarely can I pound the table and say, this is what we're going to do. This is what our schedule's going to look like. It is constantly building consensus, getting majority, and herding the cats toward a position.
So, man, that makes complete sense. I love the context and history approach. I'm sure with the leaders at the university president level, the number of things they have going, I bet they're so thankful when they get on a call and can just listen and be caught up to speed and accurately and effectively then be able to frame their opinion and a decision. And it seems like as well, and I'm not sure if this is the right word, you can insert the right word. It seems like as you're building consensus, that's persuasion, and there's sounds like some politics involved a little bit. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'd love to hear more as you're building consensus toward what you think might be best for your conference, and then you're getting the athletic directors and the practitioners on board. How much of it is political, or another word that might be a better word than that? I don't know what it is, but how do you sense that?
Well, that's business 101, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the meeting before the meeting.
Yes.
And that's calling and touching base with everyone to make sure that they can ask you the one-on-one questions that affect their institution, right? Nobody wants to go in the room. When you're in the room, you're trying to think of the whole. What's best for the sport, the student athletes, the league. But when you're one-on-one, you can answer those. Okay, so how's that going to affect me?
Yeah.
It sounds good, but I need to know, given my own institutional filters, agendas, needs, how is this going to work for me? And so asking and answering those questions and finding out things before you go into the room that you may not have anticipated. So you might, I might think I have a great compromise position, I'm really excited about it, but forgot about nuance A and B and C that apply to these schools, and I might have to adjust. I might have to make some fixes so that we get in the room. 90% of it is already baked. There might be some discussion issues, some open questions, but primarily everyone feels comfortable with the package. So you're only talking about the real tangible issues. You're not spending time educating and asking a lot of institution-specific issues.
I love that, and I bet that the leaders that are in the meetings appreciate meetings that are run efficiently, effectively, have already been framed appropriately. Enough calls have happened before the meeting, and so really the meeting and their time is valued and emphasized and magnified to where you can feel productive. And when there's a productive meeting, one of the sayings that we used to have in the programs that I ran is, I didn't want meetings after the meeting. I thought an effective meeting didn't need any more meetings after. And if I walked down the hall after we had a staff meeting and there's these little sub meetings going on, I would have everyone go back into the meeting and just say, okay, now let's have the real meeting, because whatever those were, that should have happened in the meeting. And I think by what you're suggesting, the preparation for the gathering, it gives everyone a chance once the meeting is over to go about their business without the lingering residue of the meeting.
I love that. I'm going to use that. Thank you.
Yeah, no meetings after the meeting.
You want to come to resolution. Sometimes that can always be achieved, but there's a difference after the meeting being chasing down more information, exploring more options, versus everyone going, what just happened? Wait, I agreed with all that. Let's go back and change it. That's unproductive.
So maybe if we switch gears just for a second, and with the realignment and different things that are happening, if we pulled our eyes back a little bit and just thought about college athletics as a whole, because we can see, and as I'm following court cases, et cetera, right? I think one of the things that's on everyone's mind is the employee. I don't know what word label. If I can't find a better word than that. How do you see that, at least from your perspective? And I'm sure you're way more versed than I am on that. But how do you see that issue currently? Maybe how likely, and then if we were to project down the road, ramifications of that on college athletics?
I'm personally not a fan of making student athletes employees. I know I'm biased. I was a student athlete myself. I love the experience of being able to educate young people through sport in the academy while they're getting their degree. I think there's no more special experience and opportunity at that point in your life. I understand, though, the inability of the NCAA to address and move quickly has gotten us to a point where we want to provide student athletes more resources, allow them to monetize their name, image, likeness, but also give them a voice in the structure. And so I feel like a lot of people went to employment. I feel we can achieve those things without labeling them employee, and we've gone a long way to do so. In fact, I think in name, image, likeness, we probably overshot a little bit. I'd like to see us get that back, not so much pay for play. Allow them to monetize, student athletes to monetize their name, image, likeness. Yes, great. But getting some more influence, guardrails, protections by the campuses so they're not taken advantage of, probably a good thing. But anyway, I think we've achieved that. But also voice in the governance structure, right? In employment, it looks like collective bargaining, so they have a seat at the table and can negotiate. In our world, it looks at its expanding role in the NCAA and conference governance structure. And honestly, I've been really, really impressed. Student athletes have been in the governance structure for a while, but this most recent transformation committee push and empowerment has really given them a voice. And honestly, they've had a very, very strong voice with most recent things like timing of the transfer portals, the windows, things like that. And I think it strikes a good balance. What I don't like about employment is you think about the college environment, and if you make a poor decision, a little bit of a knucklehead move, in college, you get a couple chances. You get a warning, you get a probation, you get a suspension, and you're back. In employment, you get fired pretty quickly. There isn't a lot of leeway because you got to treat everybody in the employment universe of your organization the same. So, I just, if you didn't live up to your expectations in recruiting, now you get guaranteed a scholarship and you get to finish and graduate. And in employment, I don't know that would be the case.
Yeah, really well said, and so many different issues that you hit on that I think really will hopefully just give our listeners different things to think about that maybe they've jumped to a side or the other already. And I hope that there's pause, reflection, contemplation on where it will lead. The idea of academic emphasis, which, by the way, rarely is heard currently in the world of college athletics. The focus on becoming through education. And so I think your point is well taken. I think one of the things that a lot of people would maybe like to hear your opinion on then is who governs and how the guardrails that are needed, right? The structure that has to be maybe implemented, who best maybe to be the one to do that, and what might that look like just from where you sit?
Well, I know it's early days, but I am a fan of President Charlie Baker, our new president of the NCAA. And I do very much appreciate the platform he's outlined. I think there is a role for at core, the NCAA is about having national championships, crowning national winners for sports teams, individuals, whatever the application is. And so to do that, we need to be able to govern effectively across state lines. So I think there is some needs for federal involvement to help level set some of the different state laws that have started to creep into the space. I think that's necessary because if you can use state laws to create a competitive advantage, then you really are working at contrary purposes to crowning a true national champion. But I think the other piece is that in order to govern across state lines, especially get our arms around this NIL piece, there needs to be some kind of safe harbor or antitrust protection. Yes. That just is, because you're crossing all these state lines. You're talking about the business of college sport. And so maybe it's a limited carve out, but some kind of safe harbor to allow us to be able to monitor. And frankly, I think that was a big piece of why the NCAA as an organization was slow to get in that space, was the fear of antitrust and treble damages.
I think so. And one of the things, just as you mentioned, if for some reason that doesn't play out as you're kind of recommending or suggesting, then my thought is then like will probably be with like, and states that have similar rules and governance will and maybe should be with like in their own conference, in their own league, etc. So what that would look like for a national championship, certainly that would be affected. But the idea of like with like, I think most anyone wants equitable, fair, and equal opportunity to win. And so that's kind of, I think, what you're addressing with maybe some of the guardrails and structures you're suggesting. Just so if it is a national championship, it's as equal as possible, which has never been truly equal, but it maybe is possible.
Well, and you're referencing, well, we're talking about 1% of football and men's basketball.
That's
like
right.
99% of our ecosystem in Division I, Division II, Division III, and every other sport and championship works pretty well and provides an amazing experience for those student athletes and participants. But one thing that also works really, really well right now is the NCAA March Madness. And I think everybody loves it. Those in the business, the media partners, the fans. And so I think there's a healthy respect for that and a desire not to, take away the magic, so to speak. And I think part of the magic of that tournament is the, Gonzaga success story or the St. Pete's or, just the thrill of OMG, what's happening in the first round.
Well, and that anyone and everyone has a chance and has earned a chance. And when they get their opportunity, it's amazing to see what they can do, and the world can see what they can do, which is really so much about, I don't know, how our country was shaped and forged. And so back to your point, that 1%, if that's what it is, really the issue then is college football, and at the Power 5 level especially. And so it'll be interesting to see and kind of just track if that ends up becoming a separate entity in and of itself, and the rest of the world in athletics lives happily ever after, and that structure kind of becomes distinct and different and works within the differences that it has. So I know that's a possibility. It'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Well, all of these subdivisions, even the NCAA, every school is unique. They're really, as much as we have in common, we have such unique members at every cut. And even if you cut the 10 FBS leagues, there's a lot of differences between those too. Yeah. And, you referenced like among like we consider ourselves very much FBS like, yeah. And we are very different. You're very familiar with our league, but we compete. And we're really excited. One of Craig Thompson's, my predecessor's legacy, was helping get that 12-team expanded playoff over the finish line, but also carving out access. So you have that, Bronco, you described it so well, I'm not going to try to repeat it, but that opportunity to showcase what you can do, that opportunity to punch your opponent in the nose and advance to the next round. I think that's what's so special about sports, about all the lessons you learn about business. And it's just super fun to watch. So however this ends up, I think it's really, one, I'm very grateful of all of Craig's hard work and structure to create that access, but two, to keep that access point.
A couple things I remember, and you've just expressed it so succinctly. When I was in the Mountain West Conference, first couple of years at BYU, we had won the league twice. Utah had won it twice. TCU had won it twice in like the first 6 years. And then I remember the day, there goes TCU, and there goes Utah, and then BYU chooses to go independent. I remember at that time, one of my first thoughts was access, meaning where will this lead? And I didn't think it was sustainable, to your point. And I remember as an independent, I was thinking, I think we'll have to go undefeated 2 years in a row from our current place to be considered maybe for the playoff. And the strength of schedule will certainly have to weigh into that. And so I love the idea of the 12-team playoff. I love the idea of a March Madness-ish type of feel. And I think that's good for college athletics. And I think it's, I would love to preserve that and hold on to that as much as possible. And the Mountain West Conference is, man, the quality of coaching when I was in that league, the how fun and distinct each city was, but also how kind of common groundish it felt. I think you're in a really cool spot. And I just in visiting with you today, what a bright future the league has. And just so thankful you kind of came on with us and helped share some insights.
I think I just found our new brand ambassador.
Yeah, I'll have to put a patch. A patch would go good, maybe right there.
We got you. We got you. But you know what you're saying is so true. What I love about this league, although again, all the members are different, sometimes completely different, but there's that commonality of, big state institutions, cornerstones of their community, pride themselves on accessibility, inclusion, accessible education, but yet really want to compete at that highest level. And it's just such, a lot of them are only show in town. I was just at the Colorado State at Wyoming border war, and talk about a rockin' event, beautiful fall day. I mean, and to your point, we get a lot of first time in the chair coaches, ADs, presidents. We have so much talent coming. Now, quite often they get hired away, but more often than not, they end up coming back. It's really interesting. And there's a high affinity. And I think we really embody what it means to like educate the whole person through the academy.
Well, and I think one of the other things that I really appreciated about the Mountain West and the towns and the states is identities of states are formed through their athletic programs. And there's lots of pride in outcome, but also not only maybe how they play, the brand they play. And there's an expectation in Wyoming that the style of play in football reflects the people of Wyoming. And
Well
it's
said.
very, very similar at the Air Force Academy, right? The Air Force Academy better play football in a way that represents those that attend that institution or have attended. And I think that's really fun. And I think it's really healthy. And I think it adds to the environment. And so I'm a proponent of that form of college athletics. And I think it's just invigorating.
Coach, there might be a box of swag coming your way.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it coming already. I could see you looking at my sizes. XL. So Brian, and Gloria, the perspective of one or two steps removed, to see while it's not the presidential view, the commissioner view is more presidential-ish from that height. And I think our listeners just have really benefited from hearing things from a little bit bigger and broader perspective. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having us, and appreciate having someone who knows our league so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that swag, it's going to have that 25-year patch on it because the 25 years of the Mountain West, a terrific season unfolding, a lot of candidates for that group of 5 bid. And I guess I'll just finish up with one quick question on that, Gloria. I mean, I think you almost are paying state taxes in Illinois. There's none in Texas for all those meetings that you have with your fellow commissioners, kind of determine that 12-team playoff. What's left to do in terms of some of those details? Because it seems like you guys are working so hard to get that in place for next season. It must take up a lot of your time, but what's left to do in terms of getting that thing off the ground?
Oh, there's still so much. And I would credit the CFP staff. They are deep in it. They've rolled up their sleeves, but we're going to a campus round, first sites, and how to level set the experience at, you're only going to get, a couple weeks notice, if that. And it's a lot, but certainly it's a lot that they have done before. And so we're plowing through the details, and, inevitably there's always going to be those things that you didn't anticipate in the week prior to the event. But I feel pretty good about the track we're on. Certainly is a lot, but I think it's going to be worth it. I think it's just going to be a great event.
It definitely seems like it is going to be. We kind of wish it was in place for this season, given all the teams that could be vying for some of those 12-team spots. I know it's always fun seeing on Tuesdays. Here's the 4, but here's also what it would look like with 12. A lot of Mountain West teams being in that in particular. So thrilled to have you on, Gloria. Thank you so much for jumping on with us. It was great to get your perspective, and best of luck with the rest of the season, given how things have gone already in the Mountain West there.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
All right, for Gloria Nevarez and for Bronco Mendenhall, I am Bryan Fischer. We'll catch you again next week.